You see, the fun part about being creative and having some fun, our introducer mentioned that I was for a number of years a kitchen designer before I moved into speaking and training and traveling the world, sharing ideas and challenging people to make a difference in what they're doing, to innovate and to expand. In fact, I was very creative even then. You talk to people, and other than our introducer, if you say to somebody, do you get this? People go, so what do you do? And you tell them. And they go, okay. See, I get that. Unless somebody was interested or they just did a kitchen, I'd get, oh, okay, cool. So I got innovative. I got creative. People would say, what do you do for a living? And I'd look at them, and I'd get this gaze. And I'd say, I make women happy for a living. And they'd laugh. And then I'd hit the other half, and I'd say, and their husbands pay me for it. You see, then they'd say, what do you do? And I'd say, I design kitchens. And they go, oh, okay. But for a moment, I had them. See, that's being creative and innovative and finding a way of capturing the attention of your audience. And isn't that what you need to do in business and in a job interview, for example? Some of you, how many of you are students here? Just so I can see what we're talking. Okay, the test will be tomorrow morning, so take notes. No, I'm kidding. One of the other things that Mahatma Gandhi said, and I thought was really interesting, he said, live as though you were going to die today. Learn as though you would live forever. Amazing thought. See, that's the part of leveraging what we're doing and taking this innovation. You see, innovation is really change. That was the point I was going to make in terms of, if he was still alive, I think he would be updating his sayings. Just like most of us do. We change what we say because our lives change, the influence and what happens in our lives comes in. So he would be saying, inspire the innovation you desire to see in the world. That's probably what he would say. And it really would mean the same thing. See, now how many of you understand that people don't like change? How many of you watched some of the inaugural stuff on Tuesday? Or actually it was Wednesday here, which I find interesting. I love it when I'm phoning back home because I'm phoning from the future. It's an interesting concept, but I'm actually talking to you from tomorrow. I love that concept. I mean, just think of that creativity. But I think the key point is we need to be open to innovate. And I think one of the things that we do is so many people talk about innovation, and they talk about it primarily from a technological point of view or a manufacturer's point of view. It is so much more than that. It is so much more than just doing that. It's a matter of changing and innovating your thinking. To be effective, to be successful, requires change. How many of you would understand that the world is changing? Every day. Where you were yesterday, one of the things that somebody told me, if you stop learning and you stop growing, you will get left in the dust. Because there is somebody out there who's working hard when you're not. And now that I'm here in India, I'm talking to the people who are working when I'm sleeping. I've talked about that in North America. You know, there's somebody in India right now that is working while you're sleeping. And they're working to take your jobs and to take your business. And they still don't get it. But it's true. See, that's the interesting thing of the internet has allowed us to be creative and allowed us to be innovative and connect. We can do things now that we never could do before. As our introducer mentioned, I ended up a writer. Go figure. I hated English. I was terrible in English because we had to write it in hand. And I had to write what somebody else wanted instead of what moved me. Now, let me explain to you how this works. I've actually lost track of how many books I've done in terms of print books, and now we're moving into doing e-books and doing little pocket wisdom, which I'll talk about in a minute. Probably 25 or 30 books. Not bad for a guy who just barely got through English. Want to know why? Innovation. Want to know the real story behind the story? I didn't know that I could write until somebody invented the computer. And I understood and started using it initially, I have to admit, I used it as a fancy typewriter. I used it as a very expensive typewriter for a long time. Until I started understanding it was a tool to allow me to express my creativity and to capture my thoughts. And to be able to move it around, to change it, to take things and paste it here and move it here and do things here. So that it worked. And all of a sudden, these ideas that were there, that were resident, that were floating around doing whatever they were doing, were captured and put into a device. And I could play with it. And out the other end, initially in dot matrix, came something that was created. And I was excited. Now, I didn't start doing books until I'd been speaking actually for about 2-3 years. And so I started writing books because the audiences wanted them. See, isn't that the way it works in terms of our clients? Is sometimes we have the opportunity, but we don't take it because we don't see it. And if we listen long enough, we hear things from other people. See, innovation isn't always that big, explosive event that happens. Sometimes it's that small little innovation and evolution of what happens. Here's a point for those of you who are students. Study hard, but learn to apply what you're learning. It's not a matter of knowledge. There is more knowledge that exists nowadays than there was 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, than ever in the world. And 5 years from now, we will have been doubled and tripled the amount of knowledge and what's available than there is now. We don't have the wisdom or the capacity to deal with all the knowledge that's out there. How many of you get lots and lots of emails? Do you think that idea has taken form? It's moved ahead. But for those of you students, and really for those of us who aren't, because I think we should all be students, I don't think the education ever stops. At least mine hasn't. I am more involved in learning now than I ever been in my life. Because as I get older, I realize how much more important that education and knowledge is to me in terms of advancing my career and advancing my ability to help my audiences and my readers. I'm only as good as what I can give you. And the better I equip myself to help you, the better I can do in serving you. See, the key thing is not so much knowledge. It's knowledge plus application or experience equals wisdom. And it's the wisdom that works. It's the wisdom that your employers will pay for. It's the wisdom that your clients will pay for. It's the wisdom that will allow you to sell the products and services that your company provides.